Hiya crafters, I have a couple of fun cards to share today with you. Now I'm going to jump right in and show you what I'm using. I have these Electropop inks. They're bright neon. My lighting doesn't really do it justice, but I assure you they are punch you in the face bright. And they are from Rena Kay, which is Gina Kay's daughter, and they're really fun. I just recently added them to my crafty stash, so I'm having fun playing with them. Now, the look I'm going for here, you'll see it's a bit of a hot mess. I'm not going for a perfect blend here. I'm just basically creating the underlayment for the technique that I'm going for. Now, if you're not familiar, I'm trying to recreate that look of those fun little craft sheets that you can get as a kid. They kind of have that bright rainbow underneath, and then they have that scratch away black stuff on the top. So you have like a kind of like a toothpick sort of thing, and you can scratch your own design into it, and then it reveals all the beautiful color underneath. So that's the look I'm going for here. I'm creating that faux look with this card and this technique. So I'm kind of laying down all sorts of splotches of color. I don't really care that they're not blended well. I could have done better at not putting complementary colors next to each other. There were a couple areas that I did muddy up a little bit more than I liked, but I'm just getting to know these inks. And I'm kind of figuring out which ones I want to use. Now, I did realize that in this setting, the blue and the pink overlapping created such a nice bright purple that I didn't actually even need to use that potent purple. But I'm just going to set that panel aside and let it dry. And then here I'm showing you the panel that I'm making for the second card. And I just wanted to show you that you can get a nicer blend. I am a little bit rusty with these blending foams, but you can see with a little bit of elbow grease here, you can kind of create a smoother blend. And I could have even done it better if I took the time, but just kind of going back and forth and resaturating the paper, and you can get a much smoother blend than what I showed you on the other one. So just kind of working through letting the pop and pink and this blaring blue kind of create that gorgeous bright purple in between. And then I'm going to come in with one of the greens from the set and just kind of overlap that with the blue. So you can see here just going back and forth, trying to make it a little bit smoother because I'm going to do, a different technique with this card. So I do want it to be a little bit neater and not quite as sloppy as the other panel. So here I'm going to bring in this bright green. It's Screamin' Green, and switching some blending foams here because I only have, I think, 4 handles or something. I need to stock up on more of those, make it easier. But I opted to use the blending foams with this technique because I wasn't sure how these inks were going to do with my blending brushes. Now I might designate some blending brushes for these neon inks, but they are just really bright, and I don't know that I trust them on my regular blending brushes with my other colors that I ink blend with. So I might eventually give them their own blending brushes, but I'm just sticking with the foam pads for now. But here I'm using my heat tool. This is my new WOW embossing heat tool. It has 2 heat settings, and I'm just testing it to see if the embossing powder sticks to it, and sure enough, it does. So I actually used the heat tool again and cooked it up more just to make sure it was nice and dry. And I have my embossing tool from the Rabbit Hole Designs, and I want to basically make sure that the embossing powder sticks only where I want it to. So make sure that your panel is nice and dry, like let it sit for a while, use your heat tool multiple times, make sure that mama is dry, because you'll see in a moment here, mine wasn't. But anyway, I'm using my Wendy Vecchi station tool, and I'm using the magnets to really hold down this stencil. This is the birthday celebration. This is part of the February 2022 release at A Colorful Light Designs, and it is such a fun stencil. And I looked at it and I was like, man, this will be perfect for the look that I'm going for. So I'm actually just squishing my VersaFine embossing ink right through onto that panel. So you can use a blending foam for that too if you want to be more concise, but I went at it. I just shoved that thing right down in there and then dumped some clear, this is Icicle Clear embossing powder, and look at this. Ugh, so mad. Anyway, it was not dry, so don't be like me. Really make sure it's dry. Like, cook it multiple times if you have to. So I think I kind of came at it with my Tim Holtz blowy tool whatnot thingy. I don't know what it's called, but I use that I use with my alcohol inks just to try and get some of it off. So you'll see at the end it's not perfect, but it kind of gave it a little bit of a distressed look that I didn't mind so much. But guys, just do yourself a favor, make sure the panel is fully dry, and then you'll have much better luck with this this embossing process. So essentially what I'm doing here is I'm cooking that clear embossing powder, and I'm trapping all that gorgeous color underneath, and then I'm going to ink blend black. I have this black soot ink from this is just a distress ink, so you could probably use the Distress Oxide if you wanted to as well, but I was just sticking with all dye inks here. But basically I refilled it with my re-inker, and I'm using a blending foam just to lay black over the entire panel. And as you can see, where I embossed with the clear embossing powder, it is resisting that ink. And so this is how I'm getting that cool scratch paper look, is by laying the black down, and the black will soak into the paper and every place on the panel where the embossing powder is not. So this is a really fun way to create this look, and you could do it with, you know, any dark ink. You could do it with a brown or a navy, but I thought this black with these bright neon colors really kind of gave it that scratch paper look, and I thought it worked so well with the stencil. So it created such a fun look. And now I just have a dry paper towel, and I'm just wiping off that residual ink. You'll see it sits right on top of that clear embossing powder. It just resists the ink, doesn't let it, you know, cover up that beautiful color that you have underneath. And I'm just wiping off all the excess, and that finishes that panel. You can see the little mistakes, the little flecks that were on there that I didn't want, but it turned out okay. It kind of just gave it a little bit of a distressed look, which I didn't mind, but you'll have better luck if you make sure the panel is dry. Now I'm back to this other panel that I blended more neatly, and I'm just going to use that same blending foam that I had the black soot distress ink on, and I'm just going to kind of start on the edges. And initially I was thinking I was going to kind of leave it not inked in the center, because I really wanted to accentuate the roundness of the cake layers. But then when I took it off, I realized that it was a little bit too much. It looked like it was a mistake. So I kind of lined the stencil back up, which wasn't hard to do, and put the magnets back down, and then just kind of lightly brushed over. So it's still lighter in the center and gives it that natural round highlight. But then I come in darker on the edges, just kind of pushing down that blending foam just to make it even darker, and kind of use up some of the ink that's already on that little blending foam. So I know it's strange having, you know, a black birthday cake, but I feel like with all that color in the background, it works. So I cut down the panel, attached it to a card base, A2 size, and I have my sentiment book here, just kind of figuring out what I want to put on both cards actually. And I did use a wonky stitch die to kind of cut down the panel and give it that nice finished edge. And I have these sentiments here, and I'm just kind of using, this is adhesive backed foam tape that I previously cut out with the die that comes along with these perfect sentiments. And I will link all the products that I used in the video description box below. I'm just going to liquid glue that down and liquid glue the inside of the card as well with happy birthday. So the front will say celebrate, and it'll be popped up on some foam. And then the inside, it'll be liquid glued down and say happy birthday. So this is just a fun way to kind of add some dimension to the back of your sentiments. Just use your coordinating dies, and then you get nice even dimension on the back, and then it basically makes like a glorified sticker. So just attach that to the front of the card. You could see with that nice wonky stitched edge, it gives it a nice finished look. But here's the two cards today. I added some blingage. It's just simple in design, but nice and colorful, interesting. So happy with how this turned out. And then this other one that looks like scratch paper, I think that one's my favorite here. Stick around a second and I'll show it to you. But this one turned out beautifully. I did this little die cut that says hooray. It's like a little gold glitter cardstock that I use. I just kind of liquid glued that down and then did a little happy birthday label on the inside, and that finishes my cards today. So I hope you enjoyed this technique. Let me know in the comments if you've tried it before. Yeah, it's such a fun and easy way to use your stencils in a different way. So if you enjoyed it, please hit the thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel, and I'll check you next time. Thanks.